Hello again. Welcome. Friday, June the 3rd. We're in 1 Kings 4, Proverbs 1 and 2. Remember, those are written by Solomon that we're reading about here in 1 Kings. Also Psalm 43 and Romans 9. Four places in the Bible. I want to key in though on 1 Kings chapter 4, and I want to continue what we started yesterday. Yesterday, I talked about Solomon and his wisdom he received from God. When he asked for wisdom, God bestowed it on him, along with riches and a long life and all those things. But then, Solomon had this moment that there were two ladies arguing about a baby, and he had this wise response, and all the people held him in awe because of the wisdom they saw that came from God. Well, then we get to 1 Kings 4, the very next chapter. Verse 1 says, So King Solomon ruled over all of Israel. Right? So his reign is now over the whole nation of Israel. It's been strengthened. It's growing. We begin to read in 1 Kings 4 about all these chief officials. There's 12 district governors, all these people that are there. We read about Solomon's daily provisions. And if you start to read this through, you're going to realize Solomon's quite wealthy. He is quite wealthy, is the way he lives. And then you get to the end, about verse 29 or so, in Solomon's wisdom. It says simply, God gave Solomon wisdom and very great insight, and a breadth of understanding as measureless as the sand on the seashore. See, his wisdom goes beyond deciding which mother a baby belongs to. His wisdom went beyond deciding the outcome to disputes and to drama in the workplace or in the home. His wisdom grew larger than this. It says he was wiser than anyone else, including some specific people. And his fame spread to all the surrounding nations. His fame spread to all the surrounding nations. Do you know that you have a calling, a mission that goes beyond your home or your workplace or your school? We talk a lot. I talk a lot about how we look like Jesus, act like Jesus, and drive people toward Jesus in our home, in our workplace, in our school, and also in our neighborhood, also in just stores a lot, and places you go. But did you know you have a calling and a mission that exceeds that small circle? That's the first circle of mission. But there is a larger one also. Solomon, his fame spread to all the surrounding nations. He spoke 3,000 proverbs. His songs numbered 1,005. He had all kinds of things. He spoke about plant life. He spoke about animals and birds and reptiles and fish. And from all the nations, people came to listen to Solomon's wisdom, sent by all the kings of the world who had heard of his wisdom. Everybody, far and wide, spread out, came because they had heard about this man named Solomon that had this wisdom that came from God, and they wanted to hear what Solomon had to say, not just about disputes, but about everything. I want to encourage you, very simply and very quickly, I want to encourage you to be considering the calling that God has put on you to make disciples of all the nations. And that was specifically what Jesus said. Of all the nations, not just your home, your school, your workplace, your neighborhood, or your community areas, but of all the nations. I want to encourage you. If you've asked God for wisdom, if you are living with wisdom, rejecting the drama of a broken world, and instead living, thinking, acting, and deciding things based on the wisdom of God's kingdom, I want to encourage you to think about all of the reach that you have and all of the opportunities that you have. Think bigger than your living room, bigger than your cubicle, bigger than your classroom. Think bigger than that. And consider, how can you use the technology that's at your disposal to reach the entire world, to go make disciples of all nations. I've recently been talking to people that live in Iowa about how they can make disciples. I've recently been talking to people that live in Montana about how they can make disciples. I've recently been talking to one of my friends in Cambodia about how he can make disciples, and another one of my friends that lives in the United Arab Emirates about how he can make disciples. Did you know that when you live in the wisdom of God's kingdom, your reach extends further than you can even imagine? So consider, how can you redeem the technology and the things at your availability to spread the wisdom of God everywhere? Are you on Facebook? How can you use Facebook to do that? Stop letting Facebook be where you rant about your neighbors, your coworkers, your boss, and the cost of gas. Stop ranting about that ridiculousness. Gas is expensive. I give you that. Stop ranting about it. And start using Facebook to spread the wisdom of God's kingdom. You on Instagram? Start using Instagram to spread the wisdom of God's kingdom. Are you on TikTok? What are you on? What is it? Start using the wisdom of God's kingdom to spread His word. Stop being sucked into the brokenness of the world and start doing that so that all the nations will listen to you, because you are speaking the words that give life. Until I see you again, you are sent.